After I trimmed the edge of the first column, I then have added the second column to the front. I haven't added it yet, but I pinned it. So here is the second column of the blocks, and it is, face down to the first column of that are blocks that are already quilted. Okay, and so on the back side is another layer of the backing. And so the pinning, I've got now 4 layers pinned together here. And the pinning, it starts by pinning just the front. I went ahead and I matched the seams. I'm gonna unpin this and show you. Okay, so here are the 2 seams, and what I do is when I'm getting ready to assemble this whole thing, I make sure to press all the seams of one column facing that direction and then the other one facing the other direction like that, so that I can sandwich those 2 seams together and get them to match up. So what I did first is I went through and I just matched each of these big square seams for just the 3 layers. Okay, so here's the second front, here's the first front quilted to the batting and the first backing here. And so then I did that, and then I went back and then I added the back side here and pinned it a bunch of times up and down the length of the seam here. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is switch over my machine to the walking foot, and I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam up this whole thing. And so what I'm doing is I'm stitching the front second column to the quilted sandwich, and then I'm stitching the back of the second column all together at the same time. So let me stitch that and then unfold it, and the thing should start to make sense to you. Alright, so I have now stitched the second column, both the top and the bottom, to the first quilted column. And then I've flipped them both over, and I have pressed this seam here, okay? And so you see, well, I hope you see that I have attached the front to the back, and there's a little bit of batting caught in the seam there. So that seam is thick because of the batting there, okay? So, and again, I flipped these both over and gave it a nice press along the seam here. So now, what I've got to do is insert the batting, okay? And so, the batting is going to butt up against the edge of, here, we'll start with the less crinkly edge here. There we go. Let me move this a bit closer so you can see the important bit. So the important bit is getting this batting to butt up against the batting that's in the seam there, like that, okay? And so I make sure that I'm using a very straight cut of the batting. So I used a really long ruler and a rotary color to get that cut, okay? And so I'm going to, have to spread that all the way out and go all the way down, and get it nice and flat all the way across. So, and because this is fusible batting, then all I have to do is come back, flip this over, and fuse it with my iron, and everything will be in place, and there won't be, there's just one layer of batting from this column, and then now the other batting is butted up against that. Okay, so if you're not using fusible batting, what I would do before I did that, I would actually not fold these back. Well, yes, this is what I would do. Okay. If you weren't using fusible batting, you have to take an extra step. I think this would help you a lot. You would set your machine for zigzag, and with both the top of the layer folded out of the way, so you would stitch this on, and then you would zigzag this butted seam right here. Zigzag this all the way along, okay, to hold it in place. So when you're fussing with pulling both the top and the bottom layer over, you know, you don't have to fuss too much about, you know, is this getting out of place in the seam. But again, this is one of the reasons why I love that fusible batting so much, is because I don't have to worry about that. So let me set this all up, and I'll show you how I stitch it. Okie doke, here is one shot of the second column all attached, and now I have fused it. I fused the batting to the top and the bottom. I actually do a three-step. I iron the top lightly, I flip it over, and then I iron the back, and then I come back and I iron the front again. And again, this is not really, it's not stuck on here too much, but it's stuck enough to hold everything in place that I don't have to worry, especially we don't want to worry about the batting slipping out of the seam here, so we have kind of an indentation, okay? But so, whoops, let's narrow in a little bit. So what we've got here is, here's the new column to be quilted, and remember, I left some spaces here on the edge of the first column so that when I quilt, I'm going to come along, I'm going to make sure to kind of go back and forth over the seam to kind of make this whole thing look seamless, basically, okay? And then on the leading side here, on the leading edge, I've got a good, this is a good 2 inches. Oops, you can't quite see, whoops, you can't quite see that. Okay, here we go. I've got a good 2 to 3 inches of batting and backing here. So when I'm stitching, I've got plenty of support for my hand to hold it. So I'm going to put this out on the machine and stitch a little bit, and then show you how my setup works.